This is what I have to do at home to get attention right now, so I'll do it here too. Pastor Tim Harmon is here to lead us in the invocation, if you would so kindly.
Thank you. Well, God, we thank you for this council and their willingness to serve, to sacrifice their time and energy. We pray you'd bless them tonight and make them a blessing to our community. Pray that you would guide and inspire our hearts and minds, that we would be able to be present to you and be present to one another during this time. Pray that you would help us to use the resources that have been given to us in the most effective way to serve you and to serve others. And now, Lord, we ask for grateful hearts for all the wonderful things you've given us, the blessings we have, and for this Christmas season celebrating the birth of our Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
And help Sue to have her voice back.
Thank you. Don't tell my husband you asked. It is 7 o'clock, so I'll call our meeting to order. Please join me in the pledge to allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Shirley, would you take roll, please?
Mary Hammond,
Here.
Larry Lambert,
Here.
Mike Connell,
Here.
Chad Fuller, Bob Porter,
Here.
Tina Dunn, Jacob Puffer.
Here.
Chad and Keena both had let us know in advance they would not be here, so they are excused. And we'll move on now to approval of our agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda as printed.
We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion from Bob, seconded by Mike. All those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes. We have 2 council meeting minutes that we need to approve. So when someone's ready to provide that motion, make sure you reference both.
I move that we suspend the rules, waive the reading, and approve the minutes from the November 2nd and November 16th, 2023 regular council meetings.
Second.
We have a motion from Larry, seconded by Bob. All those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Do we have any pre-approved reports today? Do we have anyone here for public comment? Shirley, do you have any communications for us?
I just handed out some, one quote for one of the agenda items, and I think that's, oh, and an updated ordinance number 390. So just replace that with the one that you have in your packet.
We have an opening on the local officers compensation committee. Greg Weckworth, who has served in that position for quite a few years, is having health issues and he will not be reappointed to that at his request. This is a committee that meets every other year in odd years. They meet for the sole purpose of determining compensation to those local officers who do get paid for their position. We also have 2 other openings. Hold on. Okay. We do have 2 other openings on the pension committee. One is for a council member. See, Mindy was in that position. And we also need a local business person to serve in that. Victor Darling had served in that position for quite a few years, but sold his business, so he's no longer able to do that. We did have it filled for a short while by Randy Coffey, but he stepped down. So if anyone, council members interested in serving on that, and if any local business person is willing to serve on that, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll be calling you when I get my voice back. Looking now for our department head reports. Kite, would you like to go first?
Good evening, everyone. Just want to put a couple quick reminders out regarding snow and ice on sidewalks. Make sure that we get those cleared off within 24 hours of the last snow. Keep those free and clear for people and pedestrians to traverse. And also a reminder regarding the overnight parking from 3 to 6. We do have newly printed tickets that reflect the increase in the fees. So it's not your $10 parking ticket anymore. But that was approved several years ago by council, and we have the new tickets to reflect those increases. So please don't park from 3 to 6 in town. Have a quote for one of the agenda items asking for new vehicle modems that go in the police cars to receive data for the in-car computers. The current ones we have are 4G. They are LTE, or they're not LTE. I forget what they are, but whatever they are, Verizon is phasing that out. So if it is just 4G, then they're phasing the 4G antennas out. And one agency in Shiawassee County fell victim to that. They turned on their computers one day in their car and there was no communication to them. These new 3 modems that I'm purchasing, I did build that into the budget, so the money's there. And these are 5G and they have a 5-year warranty to be effective and compatible with anything that Verizon puts out there. So it's the latest and greatest. I am questioning the antennas. We may be able to use the current antennas that we have, so that would save the 275 times 3, so 825. But I'll find that out tomorrow. I have somebody coming in to take a look and see what our setup actually is. So we'll be tearing the car apart and seeing what we can use and what we need. But overall, this is the best of what they've got to offer as far as technology goes. I told them I didn't want to go on the low end and have to do this in a couple of years. So that's where we're at with that. Also, I've served on the Shiawassee County 911 board for several years as a law enforcement representative. And there's fire representative, EMS representative, and then several elected official at-large positions. So all the way up down from a village elected official all the way up to a county commissioner. We actually have 2 county commissioners that sit on that board. The chair resigned, and we walked into the last meeting, and I knew that the chair had resigned. And within 2 minutes of the meeting started, I was the new chair of the 911 board. So I had no idea that was going to take place. But I may have a little bit more information regarding 911 business to pass on to you folks. Currently, right now, they are working on a couple tower projects to increase signal strength throughout the county. And also, they're currently working on the tornado siren activation project that we've been kicking down the road for 4+ years at this point. And that's pretty much all I have. folks have any questions for me.
The motion that we have for the equipment is on the agenda under new business, but if you have any questions for
Yeah, feel
Ryan
free.
about that now.
Or if you have questions later when it comes up,
Okay.
feel free to ask.
Okay,
All right?
thank you.
Thank
You're welcome.
Shirley, do you have anything that you'd like to do? Megan, would you like to present next?
Hello, everyone. I don't have a lot for you tonight. Tax bills were mailed November 28th. I would say 99% of our residents should have received them by now. I did have about 40 bills come back, returned in the mail. Change of addresses. It was mostly street addresses that needed PO boxes. I don't know if the post office is being more selective with passing some through and returning them. We have been getting a ton of return mail lately, so we are working on updating that. We've noticed that even utility bills, if you have a PO box, but your utility bill also has a street address, the mail is returning those to us. They only want one or the other, so we're going through our systems and making sure they're meeting the post office's standards. That being said, everyone received a tax bill regardless of whether or not you have escrow for with your mortgage to pay your taxes. It's an informational copy. It's very clear on the statement. If you read through it in bold, it'll say a copy of this document has been requested by a mortgage company. It does also reflect the increase in the ambulance assessment. It's for $38.50 per unit. That makes total $110 for this year. Next July, the total tax assessment for the ambulance, the total assessment for the ambulance will be $110 on the summer bill only, not split between summer and winter. Auditors will be here next meeting to go over the audit reports. To be honest, I really haven't heard from them since they were on site in August. So here's hoping they don't have questions now. It should be a simple just presentation, sign and go. Then we just have a lot of reports to file once they give the okay. And they filed some reports, I filed some reports. I think that's all I have as far as treasure. Oh, one more thing. COPS grant that I know is on the agenda later for purchasing items. I finally jumped through all of the hoops, flaming hurdles, anything you can imagine, my firstborn's blood. And I did draw down a test dollar, and I received our funds this week. So I know, I'm confident that we have access to the COPS grant funds. We can spend away. They're very specific about how we then withdraw down funds. So what we have to do is once we purchase something, once we pay for something, I'll then request reimbursement. Otherwise, you have a very small window to spend the money. If you request it first, you have 10 days to spend it. So we'll just front it out of fund balance and then get it reimbursed through the grant rather than trying to meet that tiny window.
I know you've gone over this before, but what is the total of our grant?
$130,000.
130,000, thank you.
There's about, I don't know the exact dollars, 86,000 and some change has to be designated to the generator. The balance has to be designated to the security system. If one is over and the other's under, the two cannot share their funds. So let's say the generator comes in at 86,500 is designated for the generator. Let's say the generator comes in at 88,000 and the control system only at 40, the two cannot offset each other. There's potential to add something to the access control system. Let's say we want to add a couple extra cameras. If it comes in under budget and we have a little bit of money to spend, let's say we add a couple more cameras, something like that is allowable without having to go back and ask for approval. If you want to add on a whole different component that was, say, some miracle, everybody's 10,000 under budget, we would have to go back and ask to do something completely above and beyond what was in our original scope.
Any other questions about that?
I have a question, just because I'm trying to learn. How did we get to getting that grant?
It's not a question for me.
Okay. All right, never mind. That's all fine.
We had a grant writer who was employed by the city last year. Grantsmanship, I think was the company name. And he helped us to apply for that grant, specifically for security system and generator. He then, with Megan they worked together and with Kevin and with Kyle to fill out all the information and so forth. We were approved for it, notified we were approved for it, but it was extremely difficult and confusing to get to the right people to find out when we were gonna get the money and so on.
The process was long and tedious.
It was about 13 months ago that we heard that we did get it, and it was just 2 weeks ago, I think.
Right, so I think they told us last December that congratulations, you have been designated as a recipient. It was probably April, May before they gave us the non-competitive application. And then it was late September, early October before they finally said, yep, you're officially approved. Oh, but wait, now you have to do this, this, and this to prove that you can access the funds. And I started in 2021, and I'm pretty confident that Kyle and John were getting quotes then. So it really was it's been a 2-year process.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know that at the time we knew exactly what grant we were applying for when they got their initial quotes, but it has been a long.
It has been, and the grant writer got a full-time job elsewhere, so he was no longer employed by us, even though he continued to assist Megan. She was on her own for the last 6 to 8 months, and she did a great job. I mean, it's been crazy, difficult. But she did a great job, and thank you, Megan, for doing all that.
And the fun does not stop, because then there's quarterly reporting, whether you spend a penny or whether you spend all of it. So there's checks and balances every step of the way.
Did you want to speak to Christmas Fantasy at all?
Sure. Christmas Fantasy is Saturday. If you're attending, I would plan to arrive by 5:15 at the latest. Santa will make his grand appearance on First and Main Street, just right outside the fire station, to officially light the city tree. We have all kinds of great stuff going on that couldn't happen without the support of the entire community, from businesses hosting events to people making donations of raffle prizes. The school has groups coming, choir, band, elementary choir, art club, just everybody's kicking in. There's all kinds of fun stuff to do all night. Goes till 8. Santa will be at the Baptist Church for pictures, live ice carving at the corner of 2nd and Main. First Street will be closed for wagon rides, horse-drawn wagon rides that go east of Main Street, first to Watkins, to 2nd back to the alley. 2nd Street west of 52 will also be closed from Main Street to the alley. There's just a lot of foot traffic on that corner for everything happening in town, that we can eliminate as many people turning off of 52 through the traffic, making it as safe as possible, and hoping to add more activities in the coming years on the side streets.
Thank
So,
you.
that's the plan. Hope to see you all there.
And Kevin, you're next.
Thank you. Hello. Earlier in the year, I just wanted to address this with council because it was voted on in an open meeting, and I was given directives to do so. And it was the install a new sidewalk by the McQueen House there where it was low on the First Street corner. With the tornado and the other sidewalk projects and everything going on, we never got a chance to getting around to do that. So I just wanted to address that to council, that it didn't go by the wayside. We didn't neglect to do our job. We just had other projects in the works. The mayor is the one that brought this to us. I sat down and had a conversation with her about it. And we did some work over there. We cut back the grass, put some stone in there, hoping to get it to drain a little better. And we're gonna see what happens during the wet season this fall and winter, and see if it'll drain off that way. And then we're gonna do the street paving project over there in the spring. So if there is drainage needed, maybe we can add something at that time. But as for now, we didn't get it done in this concrete season. And if we have to, we'll look at doing it in the spring with the other construction over there. I'll just report on some various items, stuff that's been happening. The flagpoles, that were torn down by the tornado, they were replaced today. That project is completed. The poles are up. We can't fly flags for 48 hours, except for the main pole. We'll probably put a flag up on it tomorrow. The rest of them had new footings poured to accommodate a bigger pole, to accommodate the wind loads, and it turned out very nice. They're nice shiny new poles with brass balls on top, and they look fantastic. Pretty happy with the outcome there. Talk about the tornado siren for a moment. West Shore, I believe, has the components. They're going to completely assemble the tornado siren on the pole. They're going to bring it over, and we're going to work with them to install it. We're going to back the hole for them so they can just bring it in with their crane, set it up, and then we have to provide power for that, which we have a panel over there by Carl's that we're going to tap into. So it should be minor. I've been dealing with the gutters on this building. Apparently, because there wasn't a color attached to it, because it's a custom color, they didn't process our request for the gutters to be done quickly. They assured us that they'll be done this week, which gives them tomorrow or next week. So hopefully that project will be completed soon, and we'll have gutters and downspouts for the winter seasons here at City Hall.
And they were lost in the tornado, correct?
Yes, that was tornado damage as well. Beyond that stuff, we've just been helping with Christmas decorations and Christmas fancy stuff, preparing all the items that we gather and help out with. We got to test out some of our snowplow equipment, salting equipment with that snow in November. Everything was working good there. All of the yard waste collection has come to an end. That ended at the end of last month. So we are no longer doing curbside collection for the yard waste, the loose leaf pickup, or the brush chipping. If we have some straggling bags, we will get them, but it's not something we put out there. So. Then the brush grinding down at the DPW garage. I talked to Midwest. That was approved at the last meeting that I was at. We're on the schedule. We're just we're waiting in line for them to get to us on that. I got a call into them. I was trying to get more information, but we're in the mix, so that'll be happening hopefully soon. Before it gets too cold out. So, is there any questions for me at this time?
Just one, Kevin, you know, we're gonna talk later on about the main generator, but I think one of the last times you reported, we talked about the one portable generator that was military grade. You're gonna try to get some quotes to see what it would take to make that usable. Is that still in the works?
It is still in the works. I gotta figure out some sort of spec that I can, because the first company that I talked to, they said, we'll do it for this amount, but we're gonna bring it in and work on it when we have crew available to do it. And then it probably won't be as much as our quote because, you know, so I'm trying to get something more substantial where everyone can bid on the same thing, because it's kind of up in the air still.
Okay.
I'll put it that way. So it's gonna happen. Hopefully over the winter we'll get it in somewhere and get it done, but I'll be bringing that to council for approval when it's time to do so. But
Thank you.
sure.
Any other questions for Kevin?
Thank you all.
Thank you. Before we move on to committee reports, Chad Fuller came in and talked with me, and he is going to be taking an EMT class. He really wants to do this. Our new fire chief, Trent, has asked him to do this, but it's every Thursday night from now, that's why he's not here tonight, through May. he would like to stay on council. And charter does allow for that to happen, but I'm going to ask Mike to read from charter what has to happen.
In the case of councilman absence from 4 consecutive regular meetings of the council, unless such absences be excused by the council at the time they occur or at or prior to the 4th such absence, or absence from 25% of such meetings in any year unless such absences shall be excused, or absence from the city or failure to perform the duties of his office for 60 consecutive days, unless such absence from the city or failure to perform the duties of such office shall be excused by the council prior to the expiration of such 60-day period.
Thank you. Chad is the chair of our Parks Committee. He said he would still be available for that. He's also on the Personnel Committee. He said he would be available for those. So with council's approval, he can stay on council even though he's going to be absent for this period of time. So I open that up for your discussion and decision. There is a motion in our packet if you do want to do that.
I move that we excuse, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, but it's not worded correctly.
Oh.
Because I misunderstood.
You said,
Yes.
it says second Thursday,
Yeah,
but it's all the meetings?
It's all meetings, and I misunderstood.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah, I corrected mine.
Okay. I move that we excuse Chad Fuller from Thursday meetings, the month beginning December 7th, 2023 through the end of May 2023.
Oh, 2024.
Or 24.
Sorry about that.
Yep.
Second.
We have a motion from Mike, seconded by Larry. All those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Shirley, will you call him tomorrow and let him know?
Sure.
Thanks. Moving on then to our committee reports. Do we have any committee reports? No?
The ordinance committee will be doing enough talking in a few minutes.
Okay.
I was just gonna note, because you brought that up, who is gonna report on Chad's behalf for the Parks Committee? I imagine there's gonna be a couple things happening regarding the pavilion.
Megan is very involved in the Parks
Okay.
Committee, so I would expect that she will when there's something
Okay.
new to report. All department heads are required to attend the first Thursday evening meeting of every month, so she would be here and could give that report. We can ask her since she's back in here now.
Boy.
Jacob was just asking if there was any report from the Parks Committee tonight, since Chad won't be here again for a council meeting until June.
Let me look at my calendar. I think he was gonna set a meeting for January 29th. It's a Monday. I think the committee used to meet on Tuesdays, but that also conflicts with his new training schedule. The goal is, we got blueprints back. Did we ever talk about this? I'm really sorry. We got blueprints back from the architect
Last week.
last week. We're gonna put together like a little, what would you call it? Like
just get
prospectus?
What? A
Like
bid
a-
form. A bid form.
A bid form, okay. That way we have the 2 vendors that bid for us once already, but without having those blueprints, they kind of bid slightly differently. So now that we know exactly what we want to rebuild, it will have the same footprint of the original pavilion, but with some upgrades, hopefully. Layout will change a little bit, but the size remains the same. Anyways, this will allow both of the vendors that we were considering previously to bid the exact same thing. And we're hoping that they'll give bids with breakdowns. Like, we want to know how much of your bid is electrical, how much of your bid is concrete work, how much, so that way we can compare them side by side, and there's some work that we know that we can maybe do in-house, some work that maybe we have other contractors that we don't have a working relationship with already. So the goal is to get the blueprints out to those two contractors.
Next week.
Probably next week, yeah. Hope to get new bids back from them no later than the end of the month, so that we can select a contractor, get on their books.
End of this month?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That way, when the Parks Committee meets in January, we can focus on fundraising around what may or may not happen if we want to do improvements to the pavilion that aren't covered by insurance, because some upgrades may not be. And we'd also been talking about pairing park improvements, a small playground up here at this park that would go hand in hand with the new pavilion and give the kids something to do that come for ball games. Lots of times the younger siblings for kids that play ball don't have anything to do when games are played at this park. And I just think it's something that's lacking when you consider 52 being the big divide. Kids can't go and play at the school by themselves if they have to cross 52. Or they can't go play at Jubilee themselves, so they have to cross the railroad tracks. So it would give a playground option on the northwest side of town. So we have been exploring a crowdfunding option through the state of Michigan, through the MEDC, public places, community spaces. If we are approved to use their program, it's a match-based program. We would set a fundraiser goal. Let's say we set a goal of $5,000. If we meet our goal of $5,000, they match it, it becomes 10. So it's kind of like a little game right now to figure out what's your perfect spot of how much do you want to try and fundraise, because you don't want to short sell yourself. You don't want to set your goal at 10,000, get 20, then you're still only getting matched 10. So there'll be a lot of footwork that needs to happen ahead of the game. Talk to people that would be potential sponsors to see if they'd be on board. That'll help us ballpark where we want our goal to truly be. And it's going to take a lot of input from the community, and our park survey said that that's what's needed around town more is upgraded infrastructure. So that's what we're hoping to get for it.
Is that meeting on the 29th at 7?
I don't want to say for certain
Okay.
because I think Chad was going to email the other members of the
Okay.
committee to check availability, so
Okay.
we won't even 100% say that's the day yet. That's just the day that he and I had talked about.
Okay.
I think he was going to check availability.
Did the engineer give a bid? Did you say they gave a bid sheet?
We're gonna, in-house, Shirley and I are gonna come up with
Okay.
one. We're gonna require performance bonds and, so we'll just write it up. And get that out. We're confident with the two vendors that we have, like, with their hats in the ring right now. I think we had 3 originally bid and we narrowed it down to 2. So.
Any other questions for Megan for Parks? Thank you, Megan,
Thanks,
for
Megan.
doing that.
Oh, I can give one more update, sorry, I just shared this earlier. The Planning Commission Master Plan, McKenna is going to be, I'm sorry, do you have stuff? Okay. McKenna will be at Christmas Fantasy on Saturday to get one last push for public input. I'm guessing we haven't gotten any survey responses in quite some time, just because it's kind of been off the radar for a while. They had planned to come to a farmer's market in October, but that was canceled due to weather. And they couldn't make it to the Halloween event. So I think this will be a great opportunity to get a lot of, hopefully, a lot of different input from people that maybe didn't get reached at the summer event or through the email surveys. And then once they complete that step, I think we're well on our way to have a draft master plan probably by the end of January for council to look at, maybe beginning of February. I've seen preliminary maps, I've seen some preliminary text. It all looks like it's coming together really well. The Planning Commission, I believe Jeff will be at Jeff is the McKenna consultant, I believe he'll be at the January Planning Commission to go over any public input that's collected this weekend and show us how that ties into all the other work he's been doing.
He was at the Planning Commission this past Monday night and went through a preliminary master plan map, if you will, of thoughts for the next 10 years, and also an early draft of goals and objectives. Those just got sent out to all the planning commission members today for their review and feedback. So that's the only addition that I have to what Megan already said.
Where will McKenna be at Christmas Venus?
They will be at the fire station with cookies to draw the people in.
Yes, thank you.
Strategic planning.
Okay, I think there's no other committee reports or any other reports. Bob, do you have any on CISA?
Nothing new on CISA, so we already know.
Thank you. Looking then for presentation and approval of the bills.
I move that we approve the bills as presented from the November 2nd and the November 16th regular council meeting, and the payment be authorized.
Second.
Motion from Mike, seconded by Bob. All those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Under old business, we just need to decide that when the antique truck sells, where that money will go. So we've talked in the past about it, maybe going to motor pool, maybe going to tornado relief, maybe going to the DPW. So we just need to decide where it's going to go so that when it sells, Megan knows where to deposit it. Discussion.
I think
it should go
personally,
towards,
go ahead.
sorry, I think it should go towards tornado relief. I mean, it's one of the reasons we're selling it is because we discovered it, in a sense. And I think that's the biggest need right now.
That's exactly what I was going to recommend, Bob.
Yeah, my instinct was for the parks, but there was a recent discussion on our public Facebook page, and I would say the vast majority of the people that commented, definitely, I think public wanted it to go towards disaster relief, so I would agree with that as well.
If there's no more discussion, then I'm just looking for a motion to that effect.
I move that the money received from the sale of the 1929 antique truck go toward the disaster relief fund.
Second.
We have a motion from Bob, seconded by Larry. All those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you for that. And I would just like to address in my limited voice, this is not a fire truck. I've seen discussion in various places that say that this is a fire truck. It's not. It's a 1929 Ford antique truck that was made to look like a fire truck to drive in parades. It was never used to fight fires. It was never intended to fight fires. It just seemed that many people were upset that we were selling a fire truck. It's not a fire truck. So that being said, I hope that clarifies any confusion.
The only thing I'd add to that, Sue, is I know there were some people that commented that there's only a bid of 100. By the way, it is on the XYZ website right now.
Yes.
In pre-bid status, and as I understand it, doing a little bit of research, it shows with like $100 bid, and somebody's saying that's the only bid on it. The reality is there could be other bids that are just not available until it actually becomes an official bid
Correct.
item. I think that's December 14th. So I
I
don't
don't
know.
11, but I don't know.
Whatever the date is, it hasn't gone into actual bid status yet, so I don't really know what the number is, if there are pre-bids on it, but what you see at first blush is not the whole story.
They don't post any bids. Otherwise, they'd get 100, 101, 102, you know.
There is a way to see them, and I don't know if it cuts, from what I understand, you have to register as a bidder,
Right.
bid $100, then you'll be able to see where the current bid is.
You will. And
That's
then
what
when
I
you-
understand.
And when you're outbid, you'll get an email or
Right.
a text saying you've been outbid,
Okay,
and then you place in the bid.
okay,
No, I've been kind of following the hullabaloo on.
yeah. So if there are questions, feel free to call XYZ in Durand. That's who's handling this process for us. Any other discussion on that comment? Thank you for that, Larry. Under new business, we do have an appointment. Maria Cuthbert, who now serves as the city's representative to the library board, has agreed to be reappointed for another one-year term. So I'm looking for council's approval of that appointment.
I move that we approve the mayor's reappointment of Maria Cuthbert to the library board with the term expiring December 2024.
Second.
We have a motion from Mike, seconded by Bob. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Our next topic is to appoint a committee to look at the possibility of the installation of sidewalks along Bath Road. I have contacted Chris at the Road Commission. He was gonna get eyes on the area, and then he will meet with our committee when we're ready to do that. I did talk to Keena, and she's willing to serve on that committee. Kyle is willing, and Kevin, and then myself. And then Keena suggested asking someone from the community at large. So I contacted Bobby Depew. He was one of the people who live on Bath Road who called me after the accident that happened. So I talked with him, and he agrees to serve on that committee. So with your approval, council, it would be a committee of councilperson Keena Dunn, myself, Chief Kyle, our DPW Superintendent Kevin, and Bobby Depew. Any questions?
I just have one question.
Yeah.
This is just a committee to assess the need or the
Correct.
resolution of a need.
Correct. It is a committee just to look at the possibility.
Do they have to make a motion? I thought you told me.
No, they do
Oh,
not.
okay.
If they're not opposed to it, we'll move ahead.
Good.
Okay, all right. Hi, Tommy. So we will get a committee meeting set up, and we'll report back to you after our first meeting. Moving on then, we have the possible approval of the STEP invoice that Kyle talked to us about earlier. Did anybody think of any questions for Kyle concerning that?
Good.
Everybody good with it?
I move that we approve, oh,
No, I'm just here for any questions.
He came up to answer questions.
I move that we approve payment for the 5-year NetCloud Mobile Essentials Plan and IBR 900 router with Wi-Fi for the police department in the amount not to exceed $5,070.
Second.
Motion from Mike, seconded by Bob. All those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kyle. And now a possible approval of the generator purchase and security upgrade. Kevin, do you want to talk to us about your 3 bids you've got?
I will. Solicited bids, pretty much since I've started working here for anticipation of approval of this COPS grant to improvements for an on-site backup power source for this building and key card access for a lot of the city facilities, which I thought I was gonna be ready to go on both, but unfortunately I didn't get all my quotes, updated quotes back for the card access. So we're talking about the on-site generator for this building this evening. When we got told we were gonna go back in May, I got bids per the mayor's request from 3 sources. 2 of them were under budget, under what we had allowed it for in the grant, and one of them was over. And now in December, 2 of them are over and 1 is under. So we may have to spend a little bit out of pocket due to the rampant inflation and costs of just getting things done has gone up considerably. I talked to Goyette, they were the most expensive there. Their project bid was $96,460. I asked Crampton Electric out of Fowlerville to write us a quote. It seemed to me they were willing to do the project, but there was some reservations on my end because they didn't ask a lot of the questions that the other two did about gas supply, source. I think there would have been some add-ons that weren't listed, and it may have ended up costing us more in the long run. And that leaves our third quote with Motor City Electric. They had their base out of Detroit, but they have a satellite office here in Perry. The previous quote they submitted was $86,000. This new updated quote, 6 months later, is $88,500. So we may have to spend $2,000 out of pocket going with this recommendation, but they did ask all the right questions. They took the whole scope of the project and looked at it, and I was pretty confident with the conversations I had with them on their ability to do the work. And so the quality of work and effectiveness of the project, I'm recommending Motor City Electric Company for the generator install at this time. These were companies that we have done business with in the past. I didn't feel a need to go outside of those companies. And we've talked about this several times, and no one said, I've had a couple recommendations along the way for other companies, but I felt like these were sufficient and capable and able to do the work. If there's any questions for me, I'll field those now.
Did they give you a brand name of generator?
We had everybody bid it for a Cummins brand,
Cummins brand?
because we have one at the treatment plant already, and we have a service agreement with them, and adding that to our fleet seems like it makes the most sense.
I have a question. Due to the one that you wanted to go with, I'm noticing that the bid was for a 100 kilowatt generator.
Yes.
The other two are 80. Crampton breaks down a $5,000 ad for that.
Yes.
So would it be $5,000 less if we went with an 80 kilowatt on Motor Cities?
So, yeah, the total for the 100,000 with Crampton is $81,318 to upgrade to the 100,000 kilowatt. Motor City Electric and Goyette both contacted our elevator manufacturer to figure out what needed to be installed here. And it was my understanding, per those conversations, that it was supposed to be bid at 100K.
Okay. What do we have existing?
The service line coming in?
The generator.
We don't have one.
Oh, we don't have one at all?
No.
Oh, wow. That's how little I know.
Yeah, no, that's-
I'm learning.
Yeah, nobody
Reading through
can
the
have one.
quotes. Okay. So it's based on required service?
Yes.
Okay. So this number is actually, very competitive. You consider Goyette's is 97,000, and that does not account for a 100 kilowatt generator. It's 80 kilowatt, and then along with the other two. So it's good.
You've got some other experience, you say, Kevin, with Motor City, not on generators, obviously, but on other work.
Yes, I've had them come out and look at some issues we're having at our water treatment plant with well 4 hammering on and off, and we're looking at options for that, which we might budget for in the coming year. They also did an emergency service call for us out there when the 8-inch water main burst. We had them do a safety check out there and make sure that all of our electrical was in good working order. They waived their fees for that service. They come out and checked it out for us for free. We had them out during the tornado event to secure auxiliary power for the gas pump so that we could get fuel for our equipment.
You've had other positive experiences with them, so really my questions.
Yes, they're very, very efficient, very good at what they do, has been my experience so far.
Thank you.
Other questions for Kevin regarding this? Any more discussion from council? If not, looking for a motion if we're going to make one.
I move that we approve the quote from Motor City Electric Company for the purchase of the generator, including installation in the amount not to exceed $88,500. We authorize Kevin Tyler, Department of Public Works, to sign a contract with scheduled work. The security portion of the purchase will be addressed at December 21st, 2023 meeting.
Second.
We have a motion from Bob, seconded by Larry. All those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
I believe that takes us up to the ordinances. We have some that are up for approval, have already had first reading, and some that are now here for first reading. And I'm going to turn this over to Larry, and I'm going to quit talking.
Save your voice for a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, first off, we've got quite a few that we're going to go through. As Sue mentioned, some are just up for approval and others are up for first reading. And just for some clarification, the ordinance committee is not out trying to see how many ordinances we can in fact change. You know, the drivers basically for what the ordinance committee tries to do, or has been doing, is we did have early on some that were just outdated and in error and cleaned those up. Most of the ordinance proposed revisions that we're bringing forward now are as a result of someone complaining, someone questioning, our ordinance enforcement officer or zoning administrator raising a question, asking for clarity that is needed in a particular ordinance. So that's largely the drivers that we have now that are bringing a lot of these things in. And as we go through them, I'll try to highlight just a couple specifics as to what in fact prompted us to look at a particular ordinance revision. Comments, questions before I start? Okay, the first one, we did have a first reading at our last regular meeting, which was dealing with land divisions. That one was basically to clean up some ordinance language to match what in reality we were doing. We had the zoning administrator signed up for things that were actually to be done by the city assessor. So as a result of this revision or proposed revision, we've put a documented process in place that the city assessor is now using and a form that she's using. And so the final piece is hopefully our approval. I move that we approve zoning ordinance amendment number 383 definitions, which was read during the November 2nd, 2023 council meeting.
Second.
We have a motion from Larry, seconded by Jacob. All those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Okay, moving on, the next one, once again, was previously read, and this deals with our ordinance that we have on the books regarding trees, plants, and shrubs, talking about the old ordinance that's been in place since the 60s that was technically making the city responsible for every tree, plant, and shrub within the city. And we talked about actually proposing that be repealed. I move that ordinance amendment number 387 regarding the repeal of chapter 1022, trees, plants, shrubs, section 1022.01, jurisdiction of the council and which was read at the November 2nd, 2023 council meeting be adopted.
Second.
We have a motion from Larry, seconded by Mike. All those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Shirley, roll call, please.
Do I just roll call us here?
Yes.
Okay. Jacob Puffer,
Aye.
Larry Lambert,
Yes?
Mike Connell,
Yes.
Bob Porter,
No.
Clarify, yes. I said aye.
oh,
Oh,
okay. All right, well, I wrote down yes, so.
All right.
We have majority yeses, so the motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, moving on, the next one are some revisions to the balance of that ordinance, so once again concerning trees, plants, and shrubs, and largely the reading that occurred last time, basically instead of council responsibility, we made it the, proposed making it the City of Perry Department of Public Works, or DPW, responsibility. And when it comes to enforcement of the ordinance, we proposed changing it from council to the ordinance enforcement officer that we now have in place, and dealing with it using the enforcement process that we previously approved. To that end, I move that ordinance amendment number 388, chapter 1022, trees, plants, and shrubs, section 1022.02, trimming and removal, section 1022.03, attachments, injury, and section 1022.05, box elder trees, subsection D, which was read at the November 2nd, 2023 council meeting, be adopted.
Second.
We have a motion from Larry, seconded by Mike. All those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
No.
We have one nay, so surely we need a roll call.
Larry Lambert,
Yes?
Mike Connell,
Yes.
Bob Porter,
No.
Jacob Puffer,
Yes.
We have a majority yes, so the motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. The next one involves ordinance number 390.
389.
Pardon?
389.
Oh, I went too far ahead, I'm sorry. I thought that we still needed to do that one. Okay, this one also is one that was previously read, and basically, to go back in history a little bit, we had previously, as a council, approved moving some of the codified ordinance portion dealing with sidewalks from codified ordinance into zoning ordinance activity, leaving a requirement for an annual inspection by the DPW of all sidewalks in the city, as well as left hanging, if you will, the penalty portion of that original codified ordinance. This, in fact, after reviewing with Justin English, our city attorney, we previously read and proposed repealing those portions since the one is not applicable and really becomes a DPW standard work practice, and the other is covered by penalty enforcement within the zoning ordinance. To that end, I move that ordinance amendment number 389 regarding the repeal of chapter 1020 driveways and sidewalks, section 1020.99, and which was read at the November 2nd, 2023 council meeting, hereby be adopted.
Second.
We have a motion from Larry, seconded by Mike. All those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Now we'll move on to 390.
Okay.
And just this one is for first reading, and this one deals with our zoning ordinance activity around accessory buildings. And this came to light as a result of some ordinance enforcement officer activity concerning a couple of issues that were identified regarding what's allowable in terms of accessory buildings / sheds within the city. So the ordinance committee's been working on and reviewed with the city attorney some proposed revisions that we'll go through. First, we'll talk about some definition change, and then we'll actually get into the ordinance itself. And there is, let me get my other notes here. I'm including a couple of definitions that really haven't changed, but we're going to have them in there for reference, so that as we move forward, people understand what is in fact on the books, as well as highlight what is changing. The City of Perry zoning ordinance, chapter 2, section 20 or 2.02 definitions. A, accessory building or structure, and section 20 or 2.20 definitions S for sheds are amended as follows. Except as otherwise specified by this ordinance, a building or portion of a building supplementary or subordinate to a main building on the same lot occupied by, used, or devoted exclusively for an accessory use. The accessory building can only be used for an accessory use. A, attached accessory structures. If an accessory structure is attached to the primary structure, it shall be made structurally a part of the primary structure and shall comply with all requirements of the zoning ordinance for the primary structure. B, detached accessory structures. No detached accessory structure shall be closer than 10 feet from any primary structure on either the same lot or an adjoining lot. And by the way, that is what we have as a definition today. Going on, section 2.20, definitions. S, shed, an enclosed freestanding simple roof structure typically made of wood, metal, plastic, or vinyl, used as a storage space or as a non-commercial workshop. Sheds are subject to the same requirements as detached accessory structures. And that last sentence is what the ordinance committee is proposing that we add for clarity. Making sheds, in its essence, accessory buildings or structures. Stick-built, the definition for stick-built structures is being deleted. It's only used a couple of places in the zoning ordinance as it stands, and it became very confusing in terms of clarity, what is and is not a stick-built structure. And we'll get into how that plays in as we go through the specifics here later. Structure, anything constructed, installed, or erected, the use of which requires location on the ground or attachment to something on the ground. Also, any constructed, erected, or placed material or combination of materials in or upon the ground having a fixed location, including but not limited to buildings, radio towers, billboards, light posts, signs, animal enclosures other than fences, garages, sheds, decks, platforms, portable or movable vehicle carports or enclosures, satellite dishes, towers, windmills, gazebos, tennis court signs, and storage buildings. The following are excluded from the definition of structure. A, lawful fences, sidewalks, and paving on streets, driveways, or parking areas. B, decks or patios, no portion of which is located 1, more than 1 foot above ground, natural grade, or 2, closer than 5 feet to any lot line. This ordinance shall become effective 30 days from date of publication.
I have a question in regards to that. Are you asking for a second to approve it on the next reading, or is this a time to discuss this?
Well, you can discuss things now, and it will be, if approved, once we have to approve having it put on the next agenda for possible approval. This requires a first reading, which we're doing now, so any clarity or questions
It's appropriate.
is appropriate now before we elect to move and vote on whether it'll be on the next agenda.
So yes, if there's any questions or discussion regarding this, now would be the time
Okay.
to bring those. If it is approved tonight, then it's placed on the agenda for next time to be adopted.
Okay.
So even if it is approved tonight, it doesn't mean it's a done deal.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say.
I guess I had this, I'm just thinking about my property, and I'm sure this would reflect on others as they build sheds and do other things. The 10 feet from primary structure, you know, I think just thinking about my layout in my garage, and my sheds and things like that, I think mine's within 5 feet. If I were to rebuild my shed or anything like that, would this, you know, take over or be more in effect and not allow me to rebuild a structure in an existing spot, or? I'm just trying to better
Yeah,
understand.
in general, what happens if we approve an ordinance and we have something that's in conflict with that ordinance that's already in place, typically it will be allowed until such time as there's any significant major repair or replacement that occurs, at which time it needs to comply with the new ordinance requirements.
Right.
That's true whether it's, you know, something like this or any other ordinance.
I think we call that a non-compliant.
Non-compliant acceptance.
Right. Now, you can I think, you could always go to the Board of Appeals and ask for an exception
Yeah.
to these rules. But I know it's in one of them, because I read through them all. Anything under 144 square feet, or 200 square feet, it doesn't require a building permit, you still have to follow the ordinances.
Mhm.
So,
We get to get a zoning permit though.
Yeah, it still requires a zoning permit. And
zoning
that's-
permit, but not a building permit.
Correct.
Under 200 square feet.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we'll talk about in the next one here, we're trying to get some clarity, because that was,
We need to make that more clear, because when I put my shed up, I looked and I didn't see that, so.
and that's the next
That
one,
was
Bob,
6
that
years
we get
ago.
to, we're gonna talk about some of the clarity that we've tried to bring with this proposal to when do I do, or don't I need to have a building permit?
Yeah, so I just question the 10 feet. That's my only reserve, you know, being a city resident and stuff, I think 10's pretty common though, to be honest. Just thinking about my personal property and how that could affect me, and I would imagine many other residents in the future.
Yeah. In reality, that's what's already on the books right now. The two things that were, part of this is in here so that everybody understands what we have in place. The two things that this motion does is adds that a shed is considered an accessory structure as a part of the definition, and that we delete the use of the term stick-built. The other thing about what defines a structure and previously what defines an accessory building are what are there currently.
Okay, all right. So we're not
Related.
reinventing the wheel, really.
Related, but not exactly. Can we have what's now on the books than what's proposed? Because I had to look them up to see what was different on these.
We can certainly work to do that.
It's just confusing
Yeah.
for me, you know, I'm looking at this going, okay, then that's all.
Yeah, I think we just asked that,
I have the red, if you want to see that, I have the word.
If you, I did it, I don't need to know, I just said for future.
for future, if we
get
get the
that-
ordinance,
Yeah, I can do
yeah,
that.
because
Yep.
we end up with as we work through them, we
That
end
would
up
help me, because I'm going, I have to look it up and say, well, it's different in this.
And that's why I dug this up for reference, so I can kind of explain what we are proposing changing.
Well, I second it if there's no further discussion.
Thank you, Jacob. We have a motion from Larry, seconded by Jacob, regarding number 390. All those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
I,
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
okay, moving on to 391, which still is now inside, we've talked about the definitions, now we're actually going to get into the, the requirements within the zoning ordinance. And I'll go through it, and then I'll come back and try to highlight, in fact, what the ordinance committee is proposing in terms of what's there versus what the revisions would be. I move that the zoning ordinance amendment number 391, section 3.14, accessory building structures and uses, which reads as follows, be placed on the next agenda for adoption. The City of Perry ordains, the City of Perry zoning ordinance, chapter 3, section 3.14, accessory building structures and uses, is amended as follows. General requirements. A, accessory buildings, structures, and uses are permitted only in connection with, incidental to, or on the same lot with the principal building, structure, or use which is permitted in the particular zoning district. Sheds are subject to the same requirements as detached accessory buildings or structures. B, an approved zoning compliance permit is required for all accessory buildings in addition to an approved building permit is required for all detached accessory buildings over 200 square feet and all all attached accessory buildings. No accessory building shall be allowed on any lot which does not contain a main building. D, accessory buildings shall be conventional new build construction or prefabricated. No mobile home, tank, junk object, or salvage materials, trailer, vehicle, or similar items shall be utilized as an accessory building or storage structure. E, temporary approval for a variance to section 3.14D due to a weather-related emergency may be granted by a vote of 2/3 of the members of the Zoning Board of Appeals, referencing Michigan Compile Law 125.3604, subsection 9-10. F, accessory buildings may be made of wood or metal, or buildings commercially manufactured of plastic, vinyl, or fabric. G, accessory buildings must be structurally sound. H, accessory buildings must be securely anchored and capable of withstanding wind loads to avoid being blowing from their installed location. I, accessory building workmanship shall be of a professional nature and maintained in good appearance and repair. J, within a residentially zoned district, 1, no more than 2 detached accessory buildings shall be permitted on any lot. 2, the maximum building height of an accessory structure shall not exceed 14 feet. 3, the total square footage of an accessory building located on a lot shall not exceed the ground floor area of the principal building located on the same lot. Number 4, existing non-conforming structures may be replaced on the existing footprint provided they are wholly contained within the property, meet the required front yard setback and design requirements, and do not inhibit emergency access. 5, the architectural character of an accessory structure over 200 square feet shall be compatible with and similar to the main building with respect to material, scale, design, and aesthetic quality as determined by the zoning administrator. K, an attached accessory building and structure shall be maintained structurally part of the main building and shall conform to all district setback requirements of the main building. L, detached accessory buildings and structures shall be a minimum of 10 feet from any building or structure unless properly fire suppressed, and 3 feet from any rear or side property line. M, accessory buildings shall not be erected in any required front yard or occupy any portion of the required green belt or buffer in any district except that guardhouses may be allowed in the required front yard of an industrial district. N, no accessory building shall be used in any part of residential dwelling, boarding, or sleeping purposes. O, amateur radio communication towers and windmills not exceeding 75 feet in height are allowed as an accessory use to the operator's dwelling or business. Supporting structures shall be designed to collapse upon themselves rather than toppling toward adjacent properties. P, wireless communications antenna may be attached to a lawful existing telecommunications tower, water tower, or other structure after the issuance of a zoning compliance permit. Q, a swimming pool may be allowed on a lot subject to the requirements of building code and section 3.27. This ordinance shall take effect 30 days from date of publication. Having said all of that, I'll try to quickly recap the changes or clarifications. Number 1, as I said before, we want to consider sheds to be an accessory building or structure. Number 2, an approved zoning compliance permit is required for all accessory structures and all detached buildings over 200 square feet, and all attached accessory buildings require a building permit also. where we took out stick-built, we said inserted conventional new build construction or prefabricated, to try to clarify the stick-built question. Since we just ran into an emergency, Sue pointed out as we were going through the ordinance activity, the trailers that we put out here for temporary housing of some of the DPW equipment, we needed to maintain that opportunity for a variance. Heaven forbid we have any residents that have something like that. And we learned through our lawyer that we couldn't just have that be a zoning administrator waiver. It needs to be handled by the zoning board of appeals, and that's why we have that issue in there. Moving on, we tried to clarify accessory buildings could be made of various materials, didn't have to just be wood. We did include, if it's pre-manufactured, a fabric or plastic material, and then tried to highlight the structural soundness of it, withstanding wind, etc., and good maintenance from an appearance perspective. The only other thing that we did, other than re-lettering things, is we did have an item in there that said that sheet metal siding was only allowed in industrial districts, and said basically they're recommending that given that we have some very aesthetically pleasing metal prefab materials, that we should be allowing that, and therefore we have struck that allowance only in industrial district, or proposing striking that. So that kind of summarizes the proposed revisions from where we have been.
And this one came up because of issues that were discovered when someone was given a citation for non-compliance with the current ordinance in an outbuilding that was fabric, because our ordinance at that time said you couldn't have fabric, and that was upheld by the magistrate that heard the opposition to the citation. So that's what caused us to revise this.
The only thing I see too, one is just to point something out, it seems silly to me. The zoning board of appeal, I think is great, other than, should we say in there that we can ask for like a speedy, because they only meet when necessary, but it may not be in a timely manner if it's an emergency. That's the only thing I see there. I don't know how to address that in an ordinance, but.
I don't know if we understand your
You know,
point,
it's
not
just-
exactly. You know, we
You
gotta
know,
get stuff.
we
in
ask
code.
for it, and it could be, 60 days, 30 days is usually what it takes, but, just so, is there any way we can think about speeding that part up?
I think anytime they have something they need to meet about, they try to meet as soon as they can.
Maybe we put a word, just, sorry, I'm not a wordsmith. Judicious, no, that's not the right word.
Expeditious.
There you go, thank you. Something along those lines.
Meeting to be held expeditiously or something.
Something, just to,
Internal process. I think it's more like just in the office, like.
Well, I think Bob just wants someone to feel comfortable that
They're not gonna
if
sit
they
there
have
and
an
wait till they have an
emergency,
emergency,
they're
they
not
gotta
gonna
wait
have to wait a month.
3 weeks to get in front of the board, that's all. And then,
So process to be expeditious.
I don't know if anybody else sees the silliness in this, and maybe I'm the only one. I can't have a shed or a building without a house, but I can have a swimming pool.
Not without a house.
A swimming pool may be allowed on a lot, am I reading it incorrectly? But I can't have, no accessory building shall be allowed on a lot, any lot which does not contain a main building. Then, but Q, a swimming pool may be allowed on a lot, subject to building
Requirements
codes.
for the building code, and I
But
think
I-
the building code says it has to have a house.
Okay.
on it. Yeah.
That's the only thing I see,
Yeah.
it just, to me,
Yeah.
the way I read it, it looks
Yeah.
like it's contradicts itself a little bit.
No, as long as you keep going past the comma, subject
Okay.
to building code, yeah.
That's why I was
Yeah, the
just
building
making
code
sure.
says there has to be a house there.
Okay. I did not
We-
look up the
we
building
had-
code.
For a while, when we had several vacant lots in town, people who wanted to buy the lot just to put a garage on or a storage building on. And so I think that's when,
And not marry the two.
well, they weren't even, they
Next
didn't
door to
even
each other,
live next
okay.
door to it. They just wanted to buy the lot to put a garage on, you know? So I think that's when the zoning.
Why that came out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Change that.
I'll second it.
We have a motion from Larry, seconded by Mike, regarding number 391. All those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Okay, moving on to the next one. Once again, this deals with something that came up as a result of looking at compliance permits and when they're required. And this one just has, I'll highlight it when I get to it, has just one minor change, but we'll see what is on the books. I move that zoning ordinance amendment number 392, chapter 17, section 17.02, zoning administrator's duties and zoning compliance permits, which reads as follows, be placed on the next agenda for adoption. The City of Perry ordains the City of Perry zoning ordinance, chapter 17, section 17.02 is amended as follows. Section 17.02, administrator duties and zoning compliance permits. A, the zoning administrator shall have the authority to issue zoning compliance permits in accordance with requirements of this ordinance. The zoning administrator may attach reasonable conditions to granting of a zoning compliance permit. B, it shall be unlawful to commence a use or change the type of use of land or change any type of use of or occupancy of any building or to extend any use on any lot on which there is a non-conforming use or to construct or expand any building or structure until the zoning administrator has determined the change to be compliant with applicable provisions of this ordinance and has issued a zoning compliance permit. C, the zoning administrator shall evaluate the structure, plans, specifications, intended use of any structure. Documented approval shall be provided once the zoning administrator has determined that such structure complies with all respects with this ordinance. Prior to this approval, it shall be unlawful to commence land clearing or excavation for construction, relocation, or repair of any structure regulated by this ordinance. This ordinance shall take effect 30 days from date of publication. And for point of clarification, everything that is here is on the ordinance today. We were proposing under point C that where it says any structure, period, the current ordinance says that exceeds 100 square feet. So we're saying that if you're doing a structure, it requires a zoning compliance permit or review by the zoning administrator, regardless of size.
That's the change that we're making.
That's the change.
Second.
We have a motion from Larry, seconded by Mike. All those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
On to the next one. And this one deals with driveways and off-street parking. Once again, this one has come up as a result of requests from our ordinance enforcement officer and zoning administrator to try to get some better specificity around what is a driveway, what is a parking area. And so this is an attempt by the ordinance committee to help provide that clarification. And once again, we're going to go through the section in its entirety, and point B that we'll get to is primarily the proposed addition that we'd be looking at. I move that zoning ordinance amendment number 393, chapter 3, section 3.34, driveways, off-street parking, and sidewalks, which reads as follows, be placed on the next agenda for adoption. The City of Perry ordains the City of Perry zoning ordinance, chapter 3, section 3.34 is amended as follows. Section 3.34, driveways, off-street parking, and sidewalks. No person shall construct Excuse me, 1 second. No person shall construct or alter a driveway, approach, or sidewalk without first obtaining a zoning permit approved by the zoning administrator and driveway approach sidewalk permit approved by the superintendent of public works. A, driveway approaches. All driveway approaches between the curb and gutter and the sidewalk shall be paved with either concrete or bituminous leveling or wearing course. Bituminous pavement shall consist of a minimum of 110 pounds per square inch of MDOT 13A. Concrete driveway approaches for residential sections shall be a minimum of 6 inches thick and a minimum of 9 inches thick for commercial approaches. The maximum grade on driveway approaches shall be 14%. The width of the driveway curb shall conform to the standard detail. 1, all work in connection with the above-mentioned driveway approach is to be performed by the applicant. No other work, such as extending, tilling, or filling of any ditch in front of property shall be permitted without special permission from the Department of Public Works Superintendent. The applicant will pay for all damages to the street on account of the driveway installation and shall save the City Council, Department of Public Works Superintendent, and the City of Perry harmless from all suits, claims, damages, and proceedings arising out of any improper installation of the driveway approach. B, driveways and sidewalk off-street parking. In addition to the sections set forth in requirements set forth in sections 3.34, 7.05, and 13.05, driveways and off-street parking areas in all zoning districts must be clearly identified by at least one of the following methods. Point 1, constructed of hard surface materials, concrete or asphalt, or gravel, crushed stone, road gravel, limestone, or crushed asphalt or concrete, or unimproved area maintained free of any vegetation, grass, weeds, etc., which clearly defines allowable driveway and parking area, or driveway and parking area clearly defined and outlined by means of landscaping, edging, or other permanent and visible means. Off-street parking area must be an extension of or connected to the driveway. One vehicle width of off-street parking parallel and contiguous to the identified driveway is exempt from above identification methods. Driveways and off-street parking must conform to all existing size and property line setback requirements. Zoning permit approval by the zoning administrator is also required. C, sidewalks. Sidewalks must be installed from property line to property line. All sidewalks constructed must be a minimum of 4 inches thick and a minimum of 6 inches thick if being poured within a driveway or approach. All new sidewalk construction must be a minimum of 60 inches wide. Replacement sidewalk sections must be the same width as existing adjoining sidewalk sections. If a replacement of sidewalks does not directly connect to the existing sidewalk, it must be a minimum of 60 inches wide. Sidewalk must comply with all design standards set forth by the City of Perry. Should placement of concrete be necessary or over near tree roots, the tree roots should be removed wherever possible. Chemical treatment of tree roots is recommended when it can be safely done. Copper sulfate or other herbicides can be used to prohibit tree root growth without harming trees. Walks shall be protected from pedestrian traffic for 2 days and vehicles for 7 days. D, ADA sidewalk compliance requirements. Any new sidewalk that exists into an existing intersection must install a handicap sidewalk warning pad. Black cast iron or black composite is acceptable. Detectable warning plates follow ADA specifications and follow manufacturer's installation specifications to properly install detectable warning plates per site plan layout. Pay special attention to be sure the concrete comes over the holes in the plate to eliminate all cavities below the plate that could trap water.
Second.
I have a couple questions for you.
Go ahead.
On the constructed hard surface materials, in this, I could be just sinking too much into this. You listed 2. Should we list specifically, since we're listing 2, brick pavers, because we've used brick pavers or paving stones for hundreds, thousands of years. So I don't know if that should be clarified, because then, you know, well, I got pavers, I wanna put these in, but no, I can't, because this is concrete asphalt. I may be overthinking it, just throwing that one out.
Is limestone the same thing?
Limestone's a
Just
gravel,
asphalt?
gravel.
Oh, okay.
That one's fine, it's just on the hard surface, because it's, there is other options other than that. And then the off-street parking, is that like next to the drive, the road? Pull off the shoulder, is that it, or is that?
No, that's, off-street parking would be on within your property.
Okay. So
I'm
that
trying
was,
to get some, trying to define that right now we have situations that people are parking in the middle of their front yard, wherever they want to park on their property. We're trying to say that is not parking or driveway space. We're trying to say, we recognize that some people don't have a lot of parking space, and that's why we added the fact that if you want to be able to park adjacent to your driveway, if you want to have an additional row of vehicles, 2 vehicles parallel to, or if you want to angle park off of your driveway, just be certain that you've defined it in one of those methods. So
right. All right, so my next notes then don't comply, or don't matter. Again, unimproved vegetation weeds, there is products out there, they've been out for 40 years. They're called lawn pavers. They're made out of concrete, and then you fill them with soil, gravel, and then soil, and you grow grass. So you still have the look of grass, but vehicles can park on them without making ruts and that kind of thing. Use them for emergency accesses to things, for fire trucks, and so, and there's also plastic ones too, but those aren't as good as the other ones. So don't know if we should make provisions for those.
If we're just saying pavers, does that
Well,
cover it though?
no, because on this it says maintain free of vegetation, grass, weeds, etc.
Oh, I see. So you mow them?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
but it's, so if you want the look, and it's permeable, so that you don't, we should consider, we don't have this in any of our ordinances, but, you know, we have to consider stormwater. Management of stormwater is very important, and it's becoming more and more important. In most municipalities, those are considered permeable, and they're acceptable.
Let me ask a question, Bob, for clarity. Now, if you're the ordinance enforcement officer and you see an area that's being mowed, and let's say somebody wanted to put them up through their middle of their front yard and grow grass through them,
You can visually, most of them, you can visually see the squares. The plastic ones you can't, but the concrete ones have, they look like picture a castle, and then the soil is level with the ups and downs, and so you see those squares. But then from the road, you just basically see grass. You can, if you get out, you can see it more.
So you said those are kind of used for access though, not parking?
Both.
Because it seems like if you park there all the time, grass wouldn't grow.
No, it'll still grow, because
Even if you
it's,
park there every
yeah,
day?
because it's down just a little bit. It's
Okay.
amazing.
All right. I don't know anything
Country
about
Club,
it.
I know, I know one in particular, Oakland Country Club, Oakland Hills, has it for their overflow parking. They use them for that. And I've installed, in the last 10 years, I've installed at least 3 for emergency access vehicles,
Yeah.
different materials.
Yeah, it seems
Would
seems
that,
something more like for emergency access than
That's
regular
a
parking.
general thought, but it's used for all kinds of different things. I just was throwing it out there. So
Sue
I'm
wants
ready.
a
I'm
turn.
sorry.
is it covered on the B, the third dot down? Do you think that capital B, the third dot says driveway and parking here? What will read it? Do you think that covers it?
It's a gray area where I think we're going to, if we can say those aren't allowed, and it has to be kept free of weeds and grass, that's fine.
Well, no, this says that, Mike, read this right here, driveway and parking.
Driveway and parking area clearly defined and outlined by means of landscaping, edging, or other permanent or invisible means.
Would that cover that?
This one here, no, yeah, that's not it. It's not on this sheet, on the actual permit.
bullet 4 under B, Bob.
Bullet 4? Oh, I'm sorry, I just had to go down one. It might be.
Do they have a name? Could we just stick the name in that sentence then? Because it's a landscape thing.
It depends on who makes it.
Oh, okay, so they don't.
I just say, I've always been, in the industry, typically, they're called lawn pavers.
Lawn pavers?
Yeah. That's all, what's the likelihood we run across that? I don't know. I just wanted to bring it up.
We could just add the word lawn pavers to that sentence, I think.
Only got one more thing and then I'll shut up.
add, I'll work with Shirley if everybody's okay, to add, under the first bullet, instead of concrete, it's in addition to concrete or asphalt, brick pavers are acceptable.
Yeah.
And under the fourth bullet, visible needs including, or something to the effect, including lawn pavers.
Something like that. Then the only one more thing. There is red composite ADA things. If we don't want those, it's fine. I didn't know if anybody knew that there are red, or if we're gonna say all of ours have to be black. I've seen it in both, I've seen them mixed, I've seen only one color in some municipalities and others.
I've seen them yellow, I've seen them.
Yeah, they're all over,
colors.
so if we're gonna have that, it's only gonna be this, it's
I
fine.
would just simplify it and say ADA compliant, handicap
Pads.
pad, yeah.
Okay, there's an example, that one's on the books today.
Yeah.
That is, or is it?
That is on.
Yeah,
is.
the black is on there, but we can take it out.
Yeah, I think we should take out the color, unless we want to have
No.
a uniform look of the city and it has to be red or black, or black or whatever, so.
So we could just say cast iron or composite
Yeah.
without the word
Yeah, I
black.
think you can take a color out.
Not to beat a dead horse, but the one thing I noticed was that it says off-street parking must be an extension of a driveway connected in some fashion, right? The only thing I think of is people do have a lot of detached structures where they don't have a permanent driveway, maybe they store something, lawn equipment, things like that. I see that all over the city. Do we want to make a provision that it includes in front of detached structures or approaches of detached structures?
If it connects to their existing driveway,
But what if it doesn't, for
then
example?
they have to, if they have to drive across their lawn to get to it, we talked about that.
Okay, question.
Yeah, you're gonna, if you're putting your lawnmower in a built detached building, I personally don't see the need to have a driveway for that. But if you're gonna be routinely driving or parking in that area in front of your detached garage or detached building, it's gonna require a driveway for this definition.
Okay.
We can always have the zoning or the enforcement officer, give a citation that has to be clarified in front of the Board of Appeals or something, zoning Board of Appeals, something like those, for those.
Exactly.
Because there may be incidences that come up, it's not black and white, there is gonna be.
We went through about probably 3 or 4 iterations of this with the zoning administrator and the ordinance enforcement officer at those meetings, trying to say, does this work for you guys? And can you work with it? And before we just ended up with this proposal.
So Mike seconded that, I think.
Is discussion over?
I am, you good, Jake?
Yeah, I'm good.
We have a motion from Larry, seconded by Mike. All those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
I think I'm done, thank you.
Thank
Talk
you.
enough.
Is there any other business that may come before council at this time? Is there anyone else here for public comment at this time? Council, do you have any discussion or observations? Any items you'd like on the agenda for the next meeting? Then at 8:38, this meeting is adjourned.